What up, guys? This is Spicy Iron. Welcome to my beginner's guide to the Phantom Muspah. So I know out there you can see a whole bunch of guides on how to do this, and everybody's gonna be rocking the max gear, and there's a lot of good information out there. Don't get me wrong, but our goal is to really show you that this thing is totally possible with that beginner setup. So first things first, you do need to have Secrets of the North completed. So make sure you guys have that done. That's the only way you're going to be able to fight this boss. And honestly, if you're watching this, you're either probably about to fight the boss for the first time in the quest, or you've already done it and you kind of need a little bit of a refresher since now, afterwards, the boss is a stronger version, kind of like, Vorkath. So, after the quest, his health does increase a fair bit, but it's not anything to worry about. I actually prefer to fight this boss while on task. That way I can use a Slayer Helm imbued. I know I even did it during the quest with the imbued Slayer Helm, but if you want the extra, protection and stuff like that that goes a little bit further, you can do a helmet swap off task, but it's just an extra swap that you have to kind of throw in there. So I do strongly recommend that this be one of those Slayer tasks. I like to make sure you're doing this max out whenever you're doing it. And it really, like I said, is not that hard. So, yeah. Now, before we get started, let's talk about what stats you're going to need. Okay, so when it comes to stats, I'm going to throw these up here for you. These are where my stats are at in the game right now. You don't have to have exactly like I have it, but it just shows you that you can do this with lower level stats. Even when you look on the wiki, it actually requests for a little bit higher on some of these, a little bit lower on some. But I do find this boss to be pretty easy. So at a minimum, I'd suggest you have about 82 magic. This way you can do Ice Blitz in order to freeze in the melee phase. You'll hear other videos talking about don't use magic and just range the thing down. If you're here and you're doing this at a lower level, or you're an Ironman and you can't afford max gear, or can't even buy max gear, it's definitely worth it. It just takes away a lot of the stress, so I highly recommend having the ability to use Ice Blitz in there. Higher HP is better, but at 80 you should honestly just be just fine. 80 range is fine as well. Just expect the kills to be a little bit slower. I know the wiki actually calls for anywhere from like 85 to 90 range. Like I said, I'm doing this on 82. I definitely boost when I do this with the range pot, but it honestly does exactly what you need to get done. So yeah, I mean, slower kills isn't a bad thing. You don't want to ever let that deter you from bossing. Moving on, you also want to make sure you have at least 75 defense. This way you can kind of minimize your food consumption in here. It also, so that way you can wear some of that higher level gear and armor. I would also suggest you have at least 63 prayer and have the Deadeye and Mystic Vigor to really help land your shots. Those I would say are actually super, super important. You're going to get those from the Royal Titans. Again, whether you're, I think you have to do it, honestly. It's not tradable if I'm not mistaken. So doing the Royal Titans is going to be really, really easy boss, whether you're doing it or soloing it. But super easy, and that will actually even teach you how to do your swap methods if you're not comfortable doing that. So by the time you get both clue, or not clue scrolls, but both prayer scrolls, you're going to be pretty proficient at doing your gear swaps, and it'll make this boss just way, way easier. So make sure you go ahead, get Deadeye, get Mystic Vigor, and then I would strongly suggest at least 82 construction. So you're going to be able to boost for the rejuvenation pool from that point, and that will just drastically save you on your resources in the long run. Plus, at our level, we're going to be teleporting out after every single kill. We're not doing this for, a bunch of kills in a row. So, fight the boss, teleport home, rejuvenation pool, hop back in your Weiss teleport, get back over there. It's a pretty quick and easy turnaround. So, 82, couldn't recommend that enough. If you need to grind it out, it's construction. You just do it. You hope for the best. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about your gear setup. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a range mage switch. So I talked about learning how to do those switches at Royal Titans. This is why, because as you can see here, this is going to be a 5-way swap here. Unless you're rocking a Bofa and you can do it a whole lot easier, this is going to be your best way to do it. Again, this is for your low level guys. So as I talked about before, best way to do this is on task, if you ask me. That way you can really get the full potential out of your Slayer Helm there. But you also always want to end up having your Barrows gloves on. So we'll take a look here so you can see my gear setup that I have equipped right now. So always want to make sure you have your Barrows gloves on. Rock the Amulet of Glory. An Explorer's Ring will do just fine. That's really just going to help you out because we're going to be praying almost this entire fight here. So the more prayer bonus you can get, the even better. And then after that, we'll kind of go into what gear we're going to be switching. So for magic, you will be running as much Ahrim's armor as possible. That way you can get away with making sure that you have the right amount of accuracy to freeze the Muspah. But as you can see here with my gear, I do not have the Ahrim's bottoms yet. I throw in Mystics. It works totally fine. You miss a little bit more, but it's really not the end. It's all how you set your character up, and you can get away with it, no problems. In your combat hand, I would recommend either the Ancient Staff, that way you can cast Ice Blitz, or the Master Wand, which, it's so easily obtainable from everyone's favorite minigame, the Mage Training Arena. So, but luckily, the Ancient Icon, it's a pretty common drop here, and that will upgrade your Ancient Scepter, upgrade you to the Ancient Scepter pretty quickly. So that's what you're going to see right here is this, Ancient Scepter, and that just comes from Ancient Icon. It is a quick drop. It's 1 in 50. I think I got it on like the 5th KC. Got a little spoon there. So something pretty easy that will help out the trip a lot as well, and it has the same exact tick speed as your wands. So for your offhands, you want either a Tome of Fire or a Mage's Book. Both of them are pretty easily obtainable to get for, Ironman and low-level players. It's either going to be a little bit of an investment, whether that's in time or in money. And then finally, you want to make sure that you're getting your Infinity Boots here, which again is going back to that Mage Arena. So there are a lot of, really, really good items you can get that don't require you to break the bank in order to do this Mage setup. So when we swap over to our range swap, here's where you want to use whatever your best range armor is, obviously. Karil's is definitely worth the grind for it, but you don't have to do that. And, if you've been doing your clue scrolls, then you can easily get away with your Blessed Hides. As you see, that's kind of what I rock here is the Blessed Hides. And I have not had a single issue on that range phase, and that's honestly where we do the most damage at. So we're going to do that. We're also going to make sure in our main hand that we're going to be using the Rune Crossbow. So this is important here because what we're going to be doing is we're going to make sure that we have the diamond tipped bolts, and the adamant ones work just fine. Don't have to do the dragon ones. And then imbue those, obviously. And then also your sapphire tip mithril bolts imbued. So that's what you'll see here. And then again, you can see my adamant ones over here that are diamond tipped. So all those are going to be important there. And we'll talk a little bit more later on why we need each of those. So, and then in your offhand, just keep the Tome or the Mage's Book. That way you're limiting how much swaps you're doing. And then again, for your boots, stick to the Blessed Boots. If you need to go down, if you have Ranger's Boots, even better. But, they're not as important. Just get the best you can get there. So next thing, before we jump into this fight, we'll need to look at what our inventory setup's going to be. So as you can still see here, inventory setup, pretty easy. Because we're going to do a 5-way swap, you've got to, be a little bit tight with your management. But on the bright side, we're only doing 1 kill trips right now. There have been a couple times I've been tempted to do multiple, but it's really not necessary. The turnaround time to get there and back is so easy, and I'll show you guys a run through of that as well. But really what you're going to be looking at, I bring a max of 3 prayer potions, your gear swap, a range potion just so you can kind of get that extra boost, because that's again where you're going to do most of your damage, some home teleport tabs, and then a rune pouch with my Ice Blitz spells. So that's going to be your bloods, your waters, your deaths. So you fill that up. That again, rune pouch, super crucial. If you don't have it, last man standing. Quick and easy way to do that. Shoot, even if you get on there first thing in the morning, you got a whole bunch of bots, and it's just easy to rack up those kills. No problems. So definitely worth grinding that out there. And then the rest of it, I'll fill up with monkfish. So as you can see here, I do add in some Karambal wands. There are going to be times where you are going to get smacked by this boss and you're going to want to combo eat. I've gotten hit and dropped down to like 8 life before, so it can happen. And so you want those combo eats just for those extreme circumstances. So definitely worth it to make sure you have those things in there. Okay, so how to get there. There are a couple different ways to get there. I'm just going to give you the two best methods. These are going to be probably what you should really push for just to make things easier. But the first thing you do is I like to make sure that I am in my house over here. I do have the Weiss teleport. So as soon as I teleport in, I can go right to the pool, and then I can head over here and jump through the Weiss teleport here. This will literally put me right outside of the herb patch, and then that way I can run over here. You're going to hop through, and if you guys remember, we're literally going to go back downstairs as if we were to mine the basalt. And again, you know, the Weiss teleport, it's the same thing. If you don't have that, you can make the icy basalts down low. It's as simple as mining these things, coming down here, combining them with your actual basalt, and then you'll have these little just mini teleports, but that takes up space in your inventory as well, so it's not worth it. But once you've done that, you've completed the quest, you can actually sneak through here, and you'll be right to the front door. So that's one super, super easy method right there. Like you can see here, it takes almost no time at all. The other method here is if we go to the map, we are going to teleport over to using the fairy rings in order to get over there, and then from the fairy rings we can hop on this barge and or boat, and we will ship over to Weiss. So that fairy ring there, I'll throw it up on the screen, but is DKS is where you're going to teleport over to, and then run down here. That'll take you through, and then you just have to climb underneath and around, just like you did in those quests. So now we're going to get into the fight mechanics and kind of what to expect. Muspah has two phases, the green phase and the brown phase, to make it simple. So when you start the fight, it's random which phase you're going to start with, so just kind of be ready to swap. Here you see we actually get to start with the green phase, so he's going to attack with range majority of the time. All you need to do is leave Protect from Missile on, and that will protect you from the majority of his damage. It will still hit through prayer from time to time. During this phase, you can simply stand still and attack from a distance, and here's where we're actually going to use those Diamond Addy bolts. So two things that you have to watch for during this phase. Randomly throughout the phase, he'll throw his hands up to his head like he's got a pounding headache, or like I like to call it, the Psyduck motion. And this is when you're going to want to switch to Mage until the attack actually hits you. If you do not get your Protect up in time, you will take a good chunk of damage, and you'll have Corruption applied to you, which is way more annoying. This Corruption slowly just drains your prayer by about 18 points in total. You can cleanse it, but in my opinion, it's not worth it. Just write it out, drink your prayer pots. This attack is going to look a lot like that Psyduck attack, so if you know what I mean, you know what to look for. Second thing we're going to look for is watching out for Muspah to change color. You'll see him switch to brown. This is when you want to go ahead, step one square away, dodge underneath you, and then gear swap. We'll swap over to that Ice Blitz load up. Here we're going to be kiting around like the Zilyana fight. Move in between each cast, so that way we're maximizing downtime and keeping your distance to minimize the damage. You will notice that when he gets close, he can hit through your prayer like that. But if you don't have your prayer on, I'll show you here, you'll take even more damage. So make sure you keep that Protect from Melee on when he's close by. The only other thing that we're really going to watch for in these moments is for him to shift back to green, and then we'll simply do the one tile step away again and switch back to our range gear. Now that you know what to watch for, let's add our first twist into this. At 75% health, you will get your first special attack. It differs depending on which phase you start at, but here we got the green phase. So what you're going to see here is this right here. He will start shooting around, and these little lightning clouds are going to be bouncing all over the place. This is the safe tile. You'll see a link in the description for the location of that tile if you're using RuneLite. I strongly encourage you that you use the safe tile. That way you can use it to redose prayer and then eat to full. The second special attack is going to be a bunch of homing spikes. Here you're going to need to constantly make sure that you're staying ahead of the spikes that are chasing you while continuing your attacks on Muspah. If you do let them hit you, there is a strong chance that they can combo you out quickly. These spikes will continually hit you and push you away, requiring your character to recover before running, which gives them time to attack again. After 20 seconds, these spikes do stop moving and fill in the space on the arena. My suggestion here is to make sure you pull these spikes to the outside of the arena or group them up with other spikes to kind of help minimize failure at the end of the fight, which you'll go over here in a little bit and see. Now that we've gotten through all those fun fight sequences, we move on to the shield phase. So when Muspah hits less than 127 HP,
he will black out the screen briefly and then move to the center of the room. Go ahead and start running to hide behind one of his spikes. He's going to smack the ground hard and send out a huge shockwave. The stage is crazy easy to dodge though, so it shouldn't be an issue. Once he has done this, he will switch to having a shield. This is where we will swap to Sapphire bolts. This is also where I find Deadeye the most efficient. We are going to try and smack that prayer shield down as fast as possible to speed up the kill. That's why these Sapphire bolts are there, to help drain that prayer. So you could swap back and forth with smite and protection prayers, but it's not really that necessary. Then the rest of the phase is going to be the same as the green phase. Once the shield is down, he'll swap to green phase again with one more attack sequence for you. Here's where you will try to kill him as fast as possible using range. Every so often in this phase, more spikes will pop up out of the ground and make the arena much smaller. If you don't kill him in a timely manner or path away from being cornered, you could be killed due to no safe ground squares left, or you could just be killed from being too far out of range. So again, I would strongly recommend Deadeye here during this phase. Now let's talk about the loot, because that's really all anyone ever really wants here. On average, Muspahs are going to drop roughly 150k if you aren't locking down any Venator shards. As an Ironman, the loot is great. Tons of alchables that give decent chunk of change, as well as plenty of resources and supply drops. But the real reason you want to be here is for those juicy pre-rolls. You get Ancient Essence, which will be dropped in heaps and bounds. This will naturally stack for when it comes time to get your Venator bow, or to improve your heart that you get dropped from superiors during Slayer. At about a 1 in 25 drop rate, you have a chance of getting a frozen cache. This cache is basically another opportunity at Muspah's drop table, if you will, with more opportunities for shards and more opportunities for caches. If you think about it, you could just be stuck in an endless loop of frozen caches. But the average drop rate from the cache is about 115k. You can also get your Ancient Icon, which I mentioned earlier, to upgrade your Ancient Staff at about a 150. And then finally, we have the Venator Shards. These shards drop one at a time and are about 1 in 100. Not that I've ever gotten that lucky. You will know right away, though, because when the shard is dropped, it won't be a pile of loot. That will be all you will get on that kill. But that shard is worth at 14 mil at the time of this video. In order to make the bow, you'll need 5 of these shards. So good luck. But the perks of the bow are freaking great. Now I'll show you a full run here at the end, but this boss is nothing you should be afraid of. Keep those home teleports for quick escapes if you need it. And worst comes to worst, with this low of gear, it will only cost 2500 GP to get it back from your gravestone, which then spawns outside the lair. So it's easy to get to and in a safe spot. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you like this video, check out my progression series. I'll leave a link to that below as well. Thanks, guys. Shoots.
Alright, so we're going to do a quick run through here. So he is in the green phase here. And that means we are actually going to be running ranged attacks on him. So these are going to do our best. Make sure you pot up here. So that is where he's going to run magic, and then you swap. So that right there, that is going to be the first kind of secondary attack. As you can see, other than that, we can literally just kind of hang out here on protect from range. But as soon as you see his little Psyduck attack right there, you're going to make sure you switch over to protect from Mage. If you don't, you will get corruption. That corruption is an absolute nightmare, as it takes away from your prayer. So we're going to step off here. And we're going to do this now. Alright. Takes away from your prayer, like I was saying. So now we are going to slowly kind of be teetering around here. And just kind of trying to smack him a little bit. So I would do protect from melee, so you don't get hit like that. He can hit from prayer, through prayer, as much as they say he cannot. This is why I keep extra food in here. So let's keep smacking him here. Run away. Oh my goodness, it does see. You can see how it actually helps out. This is a terrible first run for you guys here for the day. But I will say this kind of just goes to show what that difference is. All right. So let's do that there. Eat up. Switching back to range. And we're back at it again. Alright, I'm going to eat a little bit more food here just because I like to stay fully potted up here. And we're going to switch over to that. Alright, so we're back in the range phase. So same thing as always. Just protecting. Alright, so here's our first special attack. This one you can turn off, conserve a little bit. I would pot up. He's going to flash around. If you look down in there, I will have the actual spot here marked for you guys. So you shouldn't have to worry about that. But that way you can literally take your time there and really just kind of make sure your food, health is all good to go. Make sure your prayer pots are up because you don't want to run out of prayer here. You can get tackled out pretty quickly. So it's definitely worth it. And I'm going to step off this spot. Not that it matters here. Alright, so here we go. You got a little bit of time to switch. Not what I meant to do. Freeze them. Alright, so there we go. Freezes in. Take a couple steps. Freeze them again. Take a couple steps. Attack them again. So I like to kind of just kite them around like that. Ah! Alright, so back there. Switching back to range here again real quick. Switching over to protect from magic. Switching back to protect from range. Switching back again. So what we have here now, these are going to be the homing spikes. These things, if you get smacked by these will combo you out pretty dang quickly. So it is worth trying to stay away from them. So that way you're not getting just completely just decimated. Because they are quite the hits, man. You will get caught in the washing machine with those guys. Alright, so and this is why your accuracy is so stinking important on this guy, because you can see how many times I miss by not having all the best stuff here. Alright, so always important to pray first. Swap. Swap. Make sure I have enough prayer going here. Let's do one more. And we're getting down to the last little bit here. So, pretty simple. Definitely stay away from the homing spikes. If you can control them, it's even better. Alright, so actually, here you go. We don't need it. So here's your next special attack. He is going to do this massive body slam here. The next thing he's going to do is this is where we're going to switch to our Sapphire bolts. So from here on out, it's pretty much just doing the green phase. So this is why Deadeye is so important if you ask me. Because you are going to be able to kind of swap over here if you need to. You're going to have to be able to get in a heavier hit to knock down his prayer here. You can switch over if you're using Smite if you want to do that, but a lot of times he's not going to let you. There's that magic attack. Alright, and then here we go. So now we're going to swap back. Ooh, that's what happens when you forget. Alright, so now, last phase here. We're literally just keeping track of the ground, because we're going to have a lot more of these spikes coming up. Make sure you do not get boxed in. That is an important part right there. And then we're just going to continually try to do this. So actually, I'm going to move up here. Yep, see, there you go. Because you never know when he's going to box you in over there. I've definitely gotten it where you run out of space. Switching over. We should have another ground spike coming up. Oh, there we go. First kill. So, super, super rocky kill. You can kind of see what kind of loot you're going to get there. And then after that's over, it's literally as simple as just teleporting back out. But dude, that is a very rough kill. I haven't done it, while trying to talk. And talking definitely changes it up. But it gives you an idea of what can be here.